Oh, you're on your phone. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I was very curious, number one, to know why, how come you got the idea to provide to the world and to all of us, let's say, especially mixed people, because I am mixed too. How did the idea come to you to open the critical mixed studies?
Well, it's actually the Mixed Race Studies website. There is a group called Critical Mixed Race Studies. So
Yeah.
it's a conference, and there is a academic group called Critical Mixed Race Studies organization. So there is a difference, but I got the idea from uh, uh, looking at over the years. You know, my wife is white, so we're in an interracial marriage, and a few years ago, you know, after President Obama got elected, there was this huge amount of interest in the topic, I think, or reemergence of the discussion. And we had some friends who came over a couple years ago. And this is maybe 13, 14 years ago now at this point, who were themselves mixed, and they were explaining to me, you know, their story, and I just got really interested in the topic. So I started to get research it online. Didn't find very much. You know, it was pretty much scattered. Some of it was obviously academic, but not too much on the non-academic, except for the celebrity gazing, which, you know, I wasn't terribly fond of. Um, so, you know, I took the Vera Wang approach. Vera Wang, she's the designer. Apparently, she started because she was looking for the perfect wedding dress, so she couldn't find it, and so she made her own. And then I guess the rest was history. So I just started to create my site maybe 13 years ago, to sort of bring that into focus for maybe people in particular non-academic, so they could sort of see the what was being discussed, all the discourses out there. And the reason I got the name from actually a anthology written by Jane Ifekpunegwe. She has a book anthology called Mixed Race Studies. So I said, well, that's a great idea. So I got that domain name and started from there. And then I started collecting primarily books and articles from academia, but then obviously expanded from there.
That's very great. That's interesting.
Now, you know, one of the things I do like to preface is that, you know, one of the concerns I have when we talk about mixed race is that race is a social construct. And there's always the risk when we start talking about mixed race is that we can sort of reify this sort of false notion of race, because people have been racialized. And that's always a problem, you know, for millennia, almost half a millennia, particularly in the Americas. And also, you know, one of the other problems is that people tend to forget that people have been, as I like to put it, you know, performing family formation across racialized boundaries, you know, having mixed race families for half a millennia here. So it's nothing new.
Now that you just underlined this, do you think we were arriving at a stage that we'll remove the term race from our dictionaries? And if, according to you, this is possible, how can this be done?
That's a really great question. There's a really good book by Carlos Hoyt who talks about that. And I actually wrote a little bit of the praise for it in the book. But I think the first couple of steps that we can do is, at least for scientists and anthropologists, and I think right now in the medical community, we're making steps towards getting rid of race out of medicine. I think that's the first step. Just seeing that there really are no there are differences between individuals, but it's not race. And then sort of rereading the American Anthropological Association statement on race. I think that was maybe 20 years ago at this point, that was stating that really there's more differences within racialized groups than there are outside of them, biological differences. Now, the really hard work is dealing with race on the social construct, where people have to sort of give up their racialized identities, but really the very difficult part is there's the challenge of whiteness. Whiteness is a very strong motivator, and I think it's going to be very difficult for people who've been racialized as minorities to give that up, until people who are in the majority, who are in the quote unquote dominant groups, to give up their whiteness first. And I think that's the real struggle there. So I think those are the steps.
In Europe, we usually say that in America, they put the point too much on the racialization of people, no? Because, for instance, you have when you have to fill some modules, some schedules, in America, they ask you which race you are. This, for instance, in Italy, we don't have this. It's out of law, let us say. But the form of racism, we see them in other fields, let's say that. So this point of filling a form is something strange, really strange for us. So how do you, how do Americans, or even English, because it's in England to this way of doing things. How do you experience this? I mean, is it something that you're used to and it's normal, or is something on which you're trying to remove, let us say?
Your question is how do we fill out forms, or how do we approach deracialization? I'm a little confused about your question.
No, how you face it, how you face it, because how I see it is something strange,
Oh, filling out forms and seeing all the racial
yes.
Well, we've had such a long history of discrimination in the Americas, and particularly United States. So the way to address that, I think, is to sort of identify that way. I think if you look in some really interesting examples is in Brazil, where they have something called affirmative action, and the same thing in the United States, but they have an affirmative action program in colleges where they actually people say they're a particular race, and then they have committees that actually sort of look at an individual's photograph, or look at them in person, and determine where in the racialized structure they belong. So Brazil is a country where it is very mixed, and where people will readily acknowledge that it's racially mixed. However, there's a great deal of racism there. So in order to counteract that, they're instituting these programs where people, not only you have to say that you are Black or a minority, you have to actually be seen as dark or as a minority. And in Brazil, they've had, I think maybe 20 years ago, they had a census where people could put in they can have self-identifying descriptors, and they have maybe 128 of them, where people don't say Black or white. There's sometimes it's a brown are dark brown or dark rose or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Now in the United States, it's the structures are a lot more rigid, where you have black, white. Now you have, of course, Latino, but Latino is one of those interesting um, um, demographics where, because according to the United States Census, Latinos can be of any race.
Yeah.
So you can have Afro Latinos, Anglo Latinos. And then you have Pacific Islanders. So typically, where this has come from is also, I should interject that people from the Middle East are considered white in the United States, according to the census. Now, a lot of that really derives from dealing with past historical discrimination, and people from the Middle East weren't generally considered part of that discriminated group. Not to say they're not discriminated against, but that's how we come up with these categories. Did I answer your question?
Very well, very straight to the point. Yes. I don't want to take too much time, but it's very interesting, because maybe I'm the first person in Italy to study and research the matter of mixed people. Here they study a lot the matters of migrations, of multiculturalism, but intended in a multicultural context with migration. Nobody have, and interracial couples are a lot nowadays, and the children, mixed children, are really tones and tones. There is a huge number, but nobody have thought that there is certain type of confusion, let us say, but it's not correct. It's not correct, because I personally, I didn't feel any confusion in growing up as a mixed person. But when I compare my story with others, I hear that we have different stories, So
everyone has, yeah. What is your story?
My story, my dad is Italian and my mom is Nigerian.
Okay.
Yes, and my dad went to Nigeria in the late 50s, and he went there for a job post. He had to stay 3 months, but fortunately he met my mom.
Okay.
And yeah, and then he decided to remain there until he passed over 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I was born in Nigeria. I grew up there. And meanwhile, I came to Italy for my studies.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I have my dad and my mom, those time were the time of apartheid. We had it, even some type of apartheid in Nigeria too. Not like South Africa, of course, but it was the on the air. You could breathe. A type of discrimination, let us say, in this type of marriages.
Okay.
But my mom and my dad were so brave to educate me to what I was, to make me know that I was two parts together. I was a new type of person, let us say, I wasn't white, I wasn't black, but I was something that they called mixed.
Okay.
And I've always grown with this term of mixed. I never called myself mulatto, or it's a word that I don't feel, because historically too, it's not on my skin, let's say. So this is my story in short. So in Italy, I had many people, especially the new generation, that come to me and ask me, they feel confused, they feel, maybe they have certain type of family situation that is not typically helpful, maybe, for them to understand this type of richness, because it is a richness. So I entered this 12 years ago, Sorry, I had a little bit catarrh nowadays.
Well,
So
isn't it a pleasure to cough because of
yeah,
allergies instead of anything else?
you understand. And
But
meanwhile,
it's a
I'm
pleasure to
living in.
cough, and it's not COVID or anything like that these days.
No, it's a period of allergy. I'm living in the mountain side of
Oh,
Italy.
I know.
So we have a lot of, now it's spring. So
Yeah.
the flowers are blooming and all these things.
Yeah.
So
Actually, in 1998, I think, my wife and I spent 10 days in Florence. A wonderful time there.
I am in Venice.
Oh, yes.
More, not really Venice town, but on the north.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that I founded the project of Métissage. I don't know if you have, but it's all in Italian, maybe some parts and in English.
Okay.
And even the chat I have with you today, I will make it in Italian and English. So
thank you.
It could be very nice even to.
Yeah. I'll definitely post it on my website when you send it to me.
That's good. That's good. So, Mr. Stephen, let me just ask you a last question. And I would like to know, what is your idea in 2022 of the figure of the mixed people? I mean, what is the definition you can give us? And what do you think about some characteristics that are usually pointed out, like, for instance, racial ambiguity and passing and colorism? What are your ideas?
There's several books can be, I could write a book on that one. I'll wait till, are you okay?
No, don't worry.
Okay.
Excuse me, really sorry, but it's something beyond my power, this cough. Sorry.
Yeah, we're in 2022, there are a lot of issues surrounding the topic of mixed race. You have to, I'll step back a little bit and say that, defining mixed race can be problematic in many ways. Also, you have to remember that the vast majority of people who are nominally Black American, like myself, have European ancestor, on one or both sides of the family tree. So, if you're going to be technical about that, if you're going to hold on to notions of race, and I could consider myself mixed race if I took that definition. So for many people, it's a sort of a first generational, someone who has a quote unquote two parents of different races, or have been racialized differently. So those are pretty much the general definitions of mixedness. Of course, there are people who are multi-generational, who've mixed for generations, who obviously will define themselves as mixed. So that's somewhat controversial. Also, a lot of people who are mixed ancestry, and I like to use the word mixed parentage because not everybody who is of mixed parentage necessarily identifies as mixed. A lot of people identify as monoracial, and particularly if we're looking at people who are Black and white mixed. There are many, many people, of course, like President Obama, who identify solely as Black. So that's an issue. And then we talk about issues of passing. Of course, passing is one of those ways that African Americans in particular have used to avoid discrimination for eons. And then there's several books, and of course there are issues of colorism, discrimination within racialized groups based on skin color and skin, obviously, even in places like Nigeria, where, you know, there's a proliferation of skin lightening products. I'm sure you're aware of. And there was an author, Yaba Blay, who wrote a very good, I think her thesis was on skin color, skin bleaching. And she sees that as a manifestation of white supremacy, you know, when people color the skin, and colorism is, in fact, a manifestation of that. So, and other problems, you know, that can arise with the, I don't want to say the glorification of mixed race, but the over emphasis on the discussion of mixed race is that we tend to sort of center whiteness in a great deal. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Sorry, I lost your image. That's okay. Yeah. So in 2022, and clearly in the United States, when there's a huge amount of racial reckoning going on right now in this country, where we are going through a phase of increased overt racism, violence, you know, we're going to see a lot of people reacting in many different ways about the topic of mixedness. I think, you know, we're seeing more and more people who are identifying as mixed, more and more people who are forming mixed families, and for a few, they are reacting very negatively towards this. So yeah. I think that's predictable, sadly. But I think we'll get through this.
I see. Yeah. My video has just cut down. Anyway.
Yeah, I see.
Don't worry.
I can still hear
today is a strange day. Maybe, I don't know, something in the air. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Mr. Stephen, I'm really grateful because I had the opportunity to have a chat with you. You know, I always pick from your website. Yeah, a lot of inspiration, you know, and only American history is different. I told you before, but I had to. But anyway, give me the paths to make a good thoughts on our condition.
And how do I pronounce your name again?
Louisa. My name is Louisa. That is Louise.
Louise.
In English, it's Louise. Okay. If you prefer Louise, is okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You have my email address, of course.
Yeah.
From my website. That's probably I know you've contacted me via Facebook, but also you can email me also.
Okay. I have everything.
Great.
Yeah. If I can be useful in any way, you just call me and I can help in any way, in anything.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And sorry for what's happening with my PC today, but I don't know. I really apologize.
That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye.